Welcome to South Africa ahead of Superpole for the Joburg Kyalami 9-hour, the final qualifying session for the final meeting of the 2021 series. This was laid over from the end of last year, and the weather has been truly awful for the past few hours. Considerable amount of rain. It's still raining ahead of Superpole, but it's nothing in comparison to how wet it was when we set out for the first of our three one-at-a-time qualifying sessions for each of the drivers in these driver lineups. We didn't get very far into that, John Watson, because the car that was first on the track went around, too wet to continue, and those three qualifying sessions were cancelled, and we now have the top 8 runners from the final pre-qualifying session going to be going out one at a time for this Superpole shootout.
Well, certainly going one at a time is manageable. Track conditions are still probably on the limit, but as I say, one car at a time can be managed. But what we saw an hour and a half ago when we started the first of 3 qualifying sessions, for a brief moment in the pit lane, the rain stopped, and that was the point when everybody said, okay, let's go. And we did go, but at that time, then it came down again, and it was heavier and heavier, and rightly so. It was then red flagged, and finally, all 3 qualifying sessions were postponed and back cancelled, and we're now going into Superpole.
Well, we can see what the conditions are, but let's go down to the pit lane and see what the conditions were like out on the track, and let's hear from Ferrari's sharpest tool, Alessandro Pierguidi.
Well, John, in terms of weather condition, it's still coming down here lightly in Johannesburg, but not as much as we were seeing earlier today. And talking with Alessandro Pierguidi, who will lead the Superpole effort for the 51 Ferrari. Before I caught you for this interview, you were looking at film from 2019 of racing in the rain. What can you gain from that you can use for this effort?
I've never been here in the rain. I never drove in the rain here, so I was watching another video from 2 years ago just to understand where the standing water was. Looks like the drain is not so great in this track. There is a lot of standing water everywhere, so I was trying to understand where was to avoid any risk, because at the end, before a 9-hour race, it's better to start last than not start. So that's why I was looking, and the condition is not so great. Now the water looks a bit less, but it's still a lot of standing water. Let's see when we drive, because with the road car, the driving is one condition. Then when we start with our car, with a carbon floor, flat floor, is much more difficult with the aquaplaning. So let's see.
Well, it's no secret that this points battle for the drivers are going to come down to tomorrow. You are leading that at 37 points at the moment. How confident are you for tomorrow?
At the end, it's quite easy. The car that arrives in front of the other is going to win also the championship. I will do my best as always. We are prepared. We did a good job so far, and let's see. Even the weather tomorrow looks like a bit tricky, so it will be tough. We will do our best. At the end, we will know what happened.
Best of luck.
Well, that was Alessandro Pierguidi, all putting on a brave face behind their masks, because it's a question of not really is it raining or not, John Watson. It's a question of how much rain and where is the water sitting. We saw ahead of qualifying an hour and a half ago that there was water sitting on the exit of turn 2 and on the exit of turn 6, and it's still there. And I think we're expecting, well, here we have a message: Superpole start delayed. Next update at 17:35 local, as the ACA ASP squad have a good laugh in there with Michael Grenier. So another 5 minutes and more added before we know, but it's only fair because the conditions are just not improving.
Do you know what, Bruce? Would it really matter if you decided to opt out of qualifying, start at the back of the field? Frankly, in a 9-hour race with the number of cars that we've got here this weekend, it would make no difference whatsoever. It reminds me of 1969 Le Mans, when a certain Belgian star driver chose not to run across on the Le Mans echelon start because he wanted to attach his seat belts while the car was stationary, not try and do it going down the Mulsanne straight at 200 miles an hour. And that driver won the race. That was Jackie Eakes. So starting at the back in a 9-hour race, bearing in mind how much the conditions here could maybe catch you out and could have a bearing then on what might take place on Sunday. I think it's a realistic prospect for some teams to think think the impossible, almost. I'm not saying that that's what should happen, but I think it should be factored into the equation.
Well, it's a tricky, tricky old circuit in the dry. John, talk us about it in the wet.
Well, this circuit in the wet, I've never driven on, but it's 2.8 miles, 4.5 kilometers, and start-finish line, and then it's a slight, sort of very gentle crest, then drops away through the kink to the right, then downhill into the first big braking zone, into turns 2, then followed by the Yukski sweep into Barbecue.
And the highest point on the circuit is Loikop Corner, and it's still raining up there, but as we've observed, Watty, looking from one end of the circuit to the other, sometimes you can see the sky in the distance, sometimes you see Joburg in the background, other times you can see where there used to be countryside, but it's always light at one end, dark at the other. We haven't had the rain move away.
No, and it's not planning on moving away. I looked at the weather app as best I could get information, and it said there will be rain falling, which it is doing. There are still forks of lightning appearing, and by 6 o'clock in the evening it actually is going to again deteriorate. So what everybody is waiting for is this clear moment, the one clear moment to allow the fool to get out and try and get that one single lap in Superpole.
Well, it's going to be super critical, and the driver who's due to be first out onto the circuit is a driver brought in very recently. He'll be driving car 33. It's Thierry Vermeulen.
Well, if Superpole goes ahead, this will be the first car that we see go out, and Thierry is actually competing in his first GT3 race, and I got to tell you, for all of the chaos that's happening out there, you seem pretty calm. How are you taking in this moment for yourself?
I mean, it's great to be here, mainly just to get our experience, see how it goes, of course, with WRT. So big thanks to them for giving me this opportunity of competing at this amazing event. So very happy to be here. Of course, Superpole, it's raining a lot, so let's see what we can do. I mean, no real expectations. It will be wet. It will be my first time on the Pirellis in the rain, so I'm going to give it my best, and let's see what that will give us at the end.
Your first time in Pirellis in the rain. How do you even approach that lap?
I mean, luckily we have some onboards and stuff like that from the previous years. I mean, it tends to rain here during this event here in Kyalami, so I watch those laps, and I mean, from the experience I have, which is not much, sadly, we give it our best, and let's see.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So that's definitely a young driver putting a brave face on it. His experience in GT3, very short indeed, but he heeded the call when Anders Fjordbak, team boss of, team owner of High Class Race, became, and this young Dutch racer here to play. Experience from Porsches in the Dutch, well, the Benelux and the German series, and also Middle East GT3 Cup. But the conditions are not improving, and I'm afraid I've just heard word in my ear that Superpole, they've followed John Watson's lead, is cancelled. Is confirmation of that, because the standing water still super, super deep. We will be back for the race tomorrow, fear not. Do make sure you join us then. But race start will be local time at 12:30, the 9 hours, the Joburg 9 hours. It's the final round of the 2021 Intercontinental GT Series that started with the Spa 24 hours at the beginning of August last year, the Indianapolis 8 hours in the middle of October, and the round shifted from the end of last year to the start of this, but Kyalami at the moment has been washed clean. There will be no further action. We will be joining the action again tomorrow for the full Joburg 9 hours. Join us then.